This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Hello, welcome to this edition of Red Side of the Trent. Delighted to be joined again by Nima Tavallaey, who came from the Italian football podcast, should I say. Nima joined us last summer to talk about Nikola Milenkovic as he joined from Fiorentina, swapping Florence for Nottingham, where Fiorentina could meet Nottingham Forest yet again in Europe this time, which has been an amazing achievement, and no thanks to the player of the season in Nikola Milenkovic. Nima, how are you, first of all?
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to be with you. It's very, very busy right now. We're covering, because I run sempreinter.com and the Italian football podcast, and with the news that's been breaking, the managerial merry-go-round in Serie A and everything that's been going on. It's been a very, very intense start to the transfer window.
Yeah, I mean, I think Antonio Conte resigned from Napoli. Now he's back at Napoli. I don't know.
Well, he didn't actually resign. He said he was going to have a conversation. He did everything but resign. He argued with everyone like he always does. But then Aurelio De Laurentiis he played a blinder. He managed to imprint on Conte the seriousness of the project. And Conte... There's a beauty in Conte staying at Napoli in the sense that if you know Antonio Conte is from Lecce, the south of Italy, and if you know anything about the socio-economic, cultural, historical aspects of the north and south divide, where the south of Italy has always been kind of abandoned by the north, by the rich and powerful in the north, and him in his football career always being, successful at Juventus as a player, as a coach, at Inter as a coach, but always resigning and almost never fitting in. And so when he goes to Napoli, where you kind of think, okay, well, this is not going to work more than maybe 1 or 2 seasons because of the character he is, but he wins the Serie A title, he performs his greatest managerial miracle there. And there, of all places, in the south, in the big club in the south, that's where he decides to stay. There's a very beautiful, it's a very romantic angle to that when you understand the entire context of Italian society, history, politics, which is ingrained. There's no separation between that and Italian football. You can't tell me where one begins and the other ends.
You learn something new every day. It's the complete opposite to England, whereas the South is seen as the rich and the North is seen as the poorer side of the world.
I know.
We digress. So Nikola Milenkovic coming to us last season, Nima, from Fiorentina. You told us plenty of things about him, good and bad, which is what we wanted to hear. I know you were very intrigued to hear what you said last time. I
can't remember. It's fun to see how did it age. Did it age well or didn't it age well?
I've got 2 clips to show you. I'm going to show you the first one right now.
Well, I mean, he can play in a back 4 centrally as a right centre back in a back 4, and he can play in a back 3. His strengths, I would say, he's aerially good. He's a very combative in the sense that he wants to, he's very physical. He doesn't shy away from challenges. I'd say his read of the game is questionable. Now, some of that, of course, can be, you can say, well, look at the managers he's played under. He's played under Vincenzo Italiano, who pretty much plays man marking all over the pitch, and is really good at. His teams are not very good at defending at all. And very often you see Fiorentina under Italiano, the defensive line is always exposed. So some of that is his fault. Some of it is the tactics. But I'd say that he's mentally a very strong player, and he's quite a character. in the sense that he's got a very strong character and he's very hungry, has a lot of desire to do well and wants to win. But he does make mistakes. He does have a mistake in him, and we've seen that in throughout his tenure in Italy.
I mean, I don't think you were very far off, to be honest, because we said on that podcast, if I remember rightly, Nima, I actually rewatched the whole thing of our conversation, and with how Forest played last season, it suited Milenkovic down to an absolute T, and he couldn't have been. He was one of the best centre halves in the league last season, getting our player of the season and then the team of the season from the pundits as well.
Yeah, I mean, that did age very well. Just have to say, I have since invested in a camera, and it looks much better. And also, bloody hell, I've lost a lot of weight, haven't I?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. Turns out not being a lazy prick. Sorry, I don't want to swear. Stop being a lazy twat and going to the gym and taking care of myself has really paid off. So that's nice from a personal and narcissistic point of view. But no, look, it's I think that aged very well, and that's exactly the kind of player he is. I think he works well in a system that kind of plays to his advantages. He's very strong aerially. I think I said that last year too. And I think it's worked really well for him. He's been a leader in that defense.
Have you? I suppose then it's not been a surprise that how well he's adapted to the Premier League and Forest. But are you surprised at how well it's worked out because of how Forest finished in so high up in the league, finishing 7th, could have got in the Champions League, was 1 point off the Champions League. That is a massive progressive step for Forest and Milenkovic in some ways, because such a big impact to come from a different league.
Yes, I am surprised at the season Nottingham Forest have had. I think everyone is. Maybe not you fans are, but you guys. But no one, I think, expected Forest to be fighting for the Champions League until the end. That is a huge accomplishment. I think I understand that you're disappointed that you didn't make it, but it's an unbelievable achievement. And I think you should remember that football is one thing that I really dislike about how modern football is talked about on social media, in the media. I don't like the fact that people seem to completely discard that football is organic. It's not FIFA. It's not Championship Manager. It's not ones and zeros on a computer screen. Football is organic. It takes time to build something. Even PSG that have spent ridiculous amounts of money, even Manchester City, it takes time for things to come together, for things to gel, to win and keep winning, breeding a winning culture, breeding, creating an environment that allows you to win trebles. You don't do that by pressing the on button. It just doesn't work like that. And I think what Forest have done is remarkable. So yeah, that has surprised me. And the fact that he's the player of the season in that context is really impressive. I can't say I'm too surprised, but I am very positively surprised with the season Nottingham Forest have had.
What did you make of his and Murillo's partnership? Because I think you could have argued for several players for player of the season, but Murillo was our player of the season the year before, and that was his first season in England as well, and in a team that was scrapping relegation. And I think we said to you at the time they could complement each other very, very well. And a lot of Forest fans actually likened them to Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic, funnily enough, because they seem to have that kind of skill set. What did you make of their centre-back partnership at all, if you managed to watch anything?
I thought it was... I get the comparisons to Vidic and Ferdinand to one extent, because I think they're very different styles of defender and they complement each other very well. But yeah, no, I thought it was it felt to me that Milenkovic was more the leader in that defense than Murillo, and I think that he was more kind of that, he felt more like he was almost like a leadership voice in the back, like it's kind of the kind of leader that everyone else kind of looked to lead the defense. That was my impression. Maybe you disagree, but you would know better as it's your club.
Yeah. Well, that actually leads quite well into this next clip I'm going to show you from what you said last time as well. So I'll pop that on the screen now.
Do you think it'll be a case of him just like a hand in glove fit, the Premier League for him?
Absolutely. I think he will do really well. And given what you said, those stats you said about conceding in set pieces, I think he will become a leader in defense, especially aerially in set pieces. And if you want to plug a hole aerially, Milenkovic is probably, well, given that kind of money, that's probably your best bet if you want to go and buy someone in the Serie A. So I think he will do. I think he will suit Forest really well. I think he will suit the Premier League really well. He's a little bit. He could be. If you're going to play with a high line, he might struggle. But if you're going to play with somewhat deeper, I think he'll do really well.
I feel that kind of like, I don't know about you, Christian. I mean, we'll probably talk about this a little bit more in depth, but kind of suits us to a T because we're a bit more of a counter-attacking side that's leaning towards wanting to compete with the teams in and around us to be a bit more controlling of the ball and kind of progress up the pitch in that way. So you think he'll benefit Forest in terms of where they want to get into their goals, in terms of pushing up the league? Can we expect any goals from set pieces as well? Because we need some of them as well.
Yeah, you can. He's an attacking threat on corners and attacking free kicks and stuff. He'll probably score a couple for you, no doubt.
The top centre half scorer last season, Nima. I mean, have you got any other premonitions?
Oh, that aged really well, didn't it? No, listen. I think that the kind of defender he is, like I said in that clip, I think I think he proved that. The style of defender he is, his aerial prowess, and timing in the air has helped Forest a lot in both phases, not just attacking but also defensively. And I think that kind of speaks more to his leadership as well, that he's been a leader in that defense. So yeah, I'm happy.
It really tells with what you said, because the statistics just don't lie. Forest were the highest scorers from set pieces, one of the best defending set pieces last season. So for the £12 million or whatever it was that we paid for him, it was absolutely nail on the head, bang on. You've hit the lottery kind of defender, and I can't believe it. But I did want to ask as well, what did you? How valuable is his experience going to be in Europe next season? Obviously, back-to-back Europa Conference League finals with Fiorentina, both didn't go to plan, unfortunately, losing to West Ham and Olympiacos, I believe it is. Can the Forest go quite far, especially with him in the team?
Look, the Conference League, barring the teams from Italy, Spain, Germany, and England, are the level is so low. If Forest, I mean, the draw allowing, if Forest, Fiorentina, I can't remember who's coming from Germany and Spain.
Mainz, I believe it is.
Yeah. If they don't reach a minimum, I mean, the semi-final should be those four, and anything less than that is a huge underachievement by those four. Not given the amount of money that Forest can spend and will spend to improve the team to get to the Champions League, I think you have to almost demand that they win it, to be honest, because the competition isn't good enough. Is just not good enough. I think a final for Forest is the minimum we can ask. And as to Milenkovic, look, he's the only one. I remember that final against against Olympiacos. They underperformed in that match a lot. Milenkovic was the only one who delivered and looked like he wanted to win and acted like he wanted to win. So I think he will definitely want to win that.
I'm not sure how to word this next question, because I think it's going to be quite difficult for you to answer, but you might give an honest opinion that you did last time. Do you think teams regret not signing and taking that gamble on Milenkovic now because of how well he's done in the Premier League, or do you still stand by with what you said? Because I think you mentioned that they just weren't quite sure on why they weren't pulling the trigger, but there was obviously something there. Do you think they have that regret now that he's had a reasonable, successful campaign with Forest?
No, I think look, it depends. He works in this system, in this environment. I'm not sure playing for maybe Juventus Thiago Motta could have done better, but I don't know. I think it's got to do with who he, like the fact that he's worked well in these kinds of teams and these kinds of systems. Teams who play like that will regret not buying him. Maybe. I think perhaps Napoli could have regretted not buying him because of the way that Conte likes to defend. But other than that, look, I mean, at Inter, he wouldn't have worked with Inzaghi. Now Inzaghi's gone. At Milan, under Paulo Fonseca, he absolutely would not have worked. It would have been a disaster. But now he's gone. It depends on the system. I think Forest was a good move for him. Forest have history. Forest have pedigree. It's a club that wants to come back to the top. And if he can be a catalyst, a part of a catalyst to do that, to get Forest into Europe, to start winning trophies, that's a fantastic career. That's another aspect of modern football that I really don't like, is this notion of only trophies matter. Only titles matter. Nothing else matters. There's no other storyline. There's nothing else that matters. And to me, that is just such a reductive and stupid way of looking at football. That to me is Wikipedia football. Okay, you go to the Wikipedia page, you click honors, and then you read. There's so much more to that, to life, not just football, than achievements under the achievements bar. There's so much more to that. It's not just about, football, of course, is about winning. I get that. We're not doing participation trophies, but it is an achievement to get to a World Cup final. It is an achievement to get to a European Championship final, to a Champions League final, to all of these things, right? You have to put them into context. It's not just failure. Everything isn't so, it's not either shit or champagne. It's not just black or white. We have nuances. And I think that some players just don't function in an environment like a Real Madrid or a Milan or a Juve or an Inter or Manchester. Do you know what I mean? Some players work in another environment. It doesn't make what they do any less important or any less valuable. It's just people are different,
Yeah, definitely. I can see that. To be fair, I think the way Forest played and the way Milenkovic, I mean, the entire back five, I think Sells, Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo, Nico Williams. I actually really enjoyed watching us defend at times last season. It was actually quite exciting to watch here and there, and watch a defender. It was an art. It's like being a bit of an art that's dying.
It is an art. And now you're talking my language.
Because you're getting fullbacks playing in midfield and doing some crazy stuff, and you're expecting them to do something that they simply can't. And I just enjoyed the black and white of head it and kick it and kind of just start attacks that way. And Milenkovic even showed the other side to his game, that he can pick a pass out, he can show composure, and I really enjoy that. And like you said in the previous clip, his character shone through. You could see that he was a winner. You could see that he wasn't accepting anything of low standards. He would bark orders all the time, making sure people were focused. And I'm really looking forward to him being. He wasn't ever a captain last season. He never wore the armband, but he was plenty of people's captains within the fan base. People saw him of what he was doing, and he was really recognised for that. And that's why he won Player of the Year, essentially, because he was just head and shoulders so good and so impactful on us. And I'm hoping that will happen again next season, because if he does, we'll have a really good season again.
You will, and I think it's a really important point, because like what I said against Olympiacos, he was one of the few players that actually turned up and showed heart, even playing in a system that didn't suit him at all, with Italiano's last season. So that he really did show that, and I agree with. Listen, the old school defending as an art. Now you're talking my language. I mean, I love the Serie A because of that. And I think it's an art that has unfortunately disappeared, much like the number 10, the classic number 10 has disappeared from modern football. There's goods and bads of that, but I do kind of miss the traditional central defender who knew how to defend properly. And that made the number 10s and the attacking players have to be better. It's too much system and too athletic, too much focused on athleticism and systems nowadays, unfortunately.
Yeah, I did want to just kind of tap into your Italian football knowledge, obviously. A couple of players that have been linked very, very loosely with Forest. Davide Fratesi, who scored in the semi-final of the Champions League, of course. There was a Bangula, I think I'm saying that right, from Juventus, the young winger, and Dusan Vlahovic. They're very, very loose links. Are any of them players remotely on the radar of Forest? And if any of them, would any of them suit us at all, or are they kind of just agent talk? Because at Forest were linked to so many players in the last 2 to 3 seasons. A lot of agents like to throw a lot of mud and attach our name to it, unfortunately.
Fratesi is a dynamic midfielder. He runs a lot, and he's technically limited. His passing is not too good. But what he does do is he has lots of work rate, and he has impeccable timing in terms of read of the game. He scores a lot of goals thanks to that. These runs from deep, the timing of these runs from deep. So he has natural high football IQ that way. He's technically limited. I think that just by virtue of that makes him work in a team that defends a bit deeper and is more counter-attacking side. Dusan Vlahovic has shown that he's not a striker for a top European club as a sole number 9 that is on the front foot. His best season came out of Fiorentina when there was space to attack. They weren't a counter-attacking side, but there was space to attack. And therefore, I think he would probably work at a team like Nottingham too. Mbangula is a young player. Very, he came through at Juve. I quite like him. I think he's got an interesting future ahead of him. I think the Premier League would suit him. And I don't know if he would start for you guys, but I think he could, given his age, I think he's someone who could probably come on and be an alternative to I don't know, Elanga or something like that,
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think Fratesi, especially someone who's a goal-scoring midfielder, would possibly be someone of interest. But I don't know how strong those links are. I know I've probably sprung this upon you as well. Hudson-Odoi has been linked to Napoli for £12 million.
Sorry, who's been linked to Napoli? I didn't hear.
Callum Hudson-Odoi, so our number 14 left winger. Do you think there's anything in that, or is that kind of just loose as well? Because as well, our dilemma with that is we're led to believe Chelsea have got a huge sell-on fee, and he's in his last year of his contract now. So I don't know if that's a possibility of that kind of deal happening as well. And I don't know if you'd shoot Napoli.
You have to ask yourself, is he an Antonio Conte player? That's what matters. And if the answer to that is yes, then there is some truth to that. Conte wants players who do what he wants them to do in the system. This is why Scott McTominay, who is a limited player technically, he's not bad, absolutely not. Just like Victor Moses, he turned him into a world-class player. Ashley Young, Matteo Darmian, Antonio Conte has a system, and he puts players in that system. And if they do what he wants them to do, they will excel in that system. Scott McTominay is a fantastic example of that. Not necessarily the best player in the world, by any stretch of the imagination, but used correctly, put in the right system, became the Serie A MVP, deservedly so, in a Napoli that won the league, and he scored 12 goals in the league. So that's how it works with Conte. So I think it could be, he's probably on their list, maybe not top of their list, but he's on the list because I think he would work for Conte.
Yeah, I think I'm led to believe that he gave him a debut at Chelsea, to be fair, when he was there. So there might be some element of truth into it. But
Conte putting the old band back together. Where have I seen that before?
Yeah, definitely. But no, Nima, thank you very much for your time. I'm sure there'll be, hopefully there'll be something to come so you can get back on it, and more premonitions, maybe that Forest get win the Conference League or something with a signing.
Forest have to reach the final. Forest have to reach the final of the Conference League. I'm sorry, with the financial discrepancy, the quality of the Forest squad, and the opposition, the level of the opposition, Forest have to reach a final of the Conference League. I'm sorry, it would be a huge underachievement if you didn't, because if you got You got my colleague on the pod, Carlos, says that essentially you're going up against plumbers from Eastern Europe. So, it's names that sound like furniture stores. I mean, come on, like it's
Well,
the pressure is on. You have to. You're from the Premier League. You finished 7th. You were 1 point off the Champions League. You have to reach the minimum final of the Conference League.
No pressure on Nuno Espirito Santo or Evangelos Marinakis. Then that's that.
No, but seriously, I mean, we got to be honest. I mean, of course, I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not contradicting what I said earlier that there's more to football than just results. But if we're perfectly honest, if you look at the financial discrepancy, if you look at the quality of the squads. We're the 7th team in the Premier League, in Serie A, in La Liga, in Bundesliga. These they should be in the semi-final unless they play each other along the way. They really should. I think we can say that, and not doing that would be an underachievement. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, Nima. If anyone wants to check the Italian football podcast, all the links will be in the description below. Go check that out. I'm sure there's plenty for people to go dive into. I mean, the Italian league has been brilliant last few seasons. A different winner nearly every year for the last seven or 8 seasons, is it?
Well, it was. Let me see. It's Napoli this year, Inter last year, Napoli the season before, Milan the season before, Inter the season before that, in Juve. So we've got, what is it? In the last 6 years, we've had 4 different winners: Juve, Inter, Milan, Napoli.
Like no one's retaining it, which is what I'm saying. It's very competitive, which is enjoyable. So yeah.
It's very tight.
And it seems like Italian teams are making a bit of a comeback in Europe. I mean, Atalanta won the Europa League the other year. Obviously, Inter made the final. Didn't go to plan, but teams are starting to do well again, which is good to see. I mean, it reminds me of the 90s and Goal Lazio on Channel 5 or whatever it was. That used to be fun. But no, thank you very much, Nima. I hope you have an enjoyable summer with all the craziness happening in the Italian league and maybe covering the Club World Cup as well. I'm sure there's someone. Is there an Italian team in that? There must be.
Oh, Inter are in it. I think Juventus are in it too. Yeah,
as well. Yeah. So no, I hope you enjoy that. But join us again next time for another